a very long time. And I'll tell you guys why. So way back at the beginning of the podcast, when I was just getting started, JJ Reichenbach, aka Tasia Morgan, it was a guest, but she wasn't by herself. She was with Rebecca Brayman. And I interviewed both ladies, and they're both awesome women. All right. But I also got the sense that with both of them, it's like, as fun as they are together, it'd be much more interesting to talk to them one-on-one, because they're both very different, interesting people in their own right. And so I know I'm just gonna call you JJ for the purposes of this interview. All right. Sure. I feel that's what you want, because that's the name you got here. So thing is, JJ kind of goes to the beat of her own drum. And that is something I've always kind of admired about her. She'll just go into her own little corner of the universe, and she'll just do her thing. And I have to admit, I dig that about you. It's one of my favorite things about you as a person. So
thanks, Josh.
Yeah. So I'm gonna actually. So we were talking off the air about kind of what craziness I'm up to, a little bit, what my plans are going forward, and so. What about you? Like we're not. I don't want to do COVID therapy exactly, but
God knows we don't need to talk about that.
No one really wants to talk about that anymore. But it did. I mean, I haven't seen you since I left Calgary.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And so my question for you is, what, like, I always feel like something like this is my second apocalypse, not my first, my second one. Right.
So it's old hat to you.
A little bit, actually. So so my first one was a very personal one about 13, 14 years ago. It's like very different. The pressure's the same. It's almost like you're getting this great big squeeze put on you. But because I've been through it once, like in terms of my own personal pressure cooker, this doesn't hit me the same way as it hit a lot of other people.
That's good. Thank goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't mean I didn't have my moments of crazy. I think we all did, but it wasn't like this was going to this didn't traumatize me. Whereas to some people, I feel like this was their first brush with, oh my God, I'm going to die someday, which is a big, profound thing. But I had already experienced that lesson. If anything, something like this actually makes me like braver. It doesn't actually scare me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what about you?
I'm doing great right now. Definitely during like the pandemic, not that we have to talk about it, but I actually went to Costa Rica in February of last year. And then I was there for about a month, and then this pandemic hits, and I was like, well, that was not expected. I didn't really incorporate that into my travel plans. So I ended up staying, and I was, you could say, like, stranded there for about 10 months. I got home, I want to say it was in November. So I was in Costa Rica during the pandemic. Gotta say, there was no better place to be, at least for me.
I'm kind of jealous, actually.
Weather was great. I was completely safe where I was. I feel very grateful and blessed about how things turned out, because I had this amazing landlady and her family. And so in spite of this global catastrophe, I was totally protected and taken care of. And at that time, I actually finally finished this book, which, as you know, I've been working on for years. It's been a long time in the making, and I was like, you know what? Just gotta do it. So I just did it.
That's awesome. So for the last few years, you've been. So I'm gonna ask this question because I don't. Shy is the wrong word with you. You're quiet, but I don't necessarily.
Just a card-carrying introvert.
Yeah, I just think you're the kind of person this was always this was the impression I got with you. There's just tons of depth inside you, but really when it comes and you got no problem talking about it if it comes up. But for the most part, you just kind of want to go about your business. I mean, I'm not saying you don't give a shit. That's not quite it.
I have limited shits to give.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's just saying. You're I am very you're not unsympathetic. You are. You're not. You don't. It's not like you don't care. It's more like
no, I do.
I just go about my business, and let me go about my business and I'm cool.
Yeah.
Get in my way. You might wake up with some really bad news. I actually like.
Who knows? I have like an air of mystery about me, I guess.
Well, you just quietly go about your business. It's like that. That's the thing I've noticed about you, right? Is you just quietly do it, and like you have this very you know, and that's just your aura. But I think with you, like you're more like you talked about this like just personally throughout the years. You're a lot more comfortable editing somebody's work and helping them get to that finished final product.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about that.
Yeah, that like I feel like that's your first love, or if not your first love, that it's like almost like you discovered your true love. Like writing might be your first love, but editing is like that. That's where you're most at home. But I also think
it's tough for me to say. I'm kind of torn in it. Like I love editing. That's really my something I enjoy doing. I enjoy connecting with other people on like a very personal one-on-one level and helping them to level up their own writing skills because I love writing so much. So I think I connect to people who also have the same love as I do for writing.
Mm-hmm. No, it's fair. I just like because, but I mean, I think it stands to reason that you've been working like you've had. See, I'm of this belief, and this is just me. I'm of the belief that when push really comes to shove, we do exactly what we want to do, and it doesn't matter what the situation is. It's like, yeah, that like it could be raining meteorites outside right now, and one shot might turn you into a pillar of salt. But you know what? If I really want to go play hopscotch in the street,
you're gonna do it. Get hit by that meteorite.
Yeah. That's my nature. See, that's where my crazy is. It's like it really doesn't matter what's going on around me. I'm going to do what I want. That's my good and that's my bad, and I totally acknowledge that. Right. Right. I feel like though that my theory is true though. You were hesitant. I'm not going to say hesitant. Maybe I'm not sure if hesitant is the right word, but this book definitely gave you a certain trepidation. The first two didn't.
Yeah, it was very. It's been quite an experience getting here, Josh. I'll be honest. Because I wrote my first book. I basically finished my university degrees. Decided, no, I don't want to do that. I want to be a writer and an editor and live my life. So I went to Thailand. I wrote my first book, and I started an editing business at the same time. And then I didn't have a connection at that point to the writing community, so I didn't really know anybody. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just put my book out there on Amazon. I'm like, okay, I did that. And then I did the sequel because, the handful of readers that I had wanted a sequel to it. So I wrote that, and that was, I guess, 2016 at that point. Yeah. So that would be like when you and I really met because you did that interview with me then.
Yeah, 2016, 2017, one of those.
Yeah, around there. And so then at that point, I had established myself a little bit more. I had a bigger connection to like the local writing community. I had friends who were also writers. So I actually like launched that, like a real book in Owl's Nest, and that was my second book. And then I left it like a real jerk on a cliffhanger. And at that point too, I was like really working on my editing business, working on building a business as an entrepreneur. And so I poured and channeled my energy into that, kind of at the expense of my third book. And I always intended to get back to it, and I have now. But I also kind of wrote myself into a corner with it, and that took some thinking to get out of.
See, I always have a bit of a fear because I'm currently writing 3 different book series right now. 2 of them are out right now, and the third one's going to hopefully be out before the year's out. I'm not sure if the third one's going to make it or not. Well, no, because I've already written 2 books this year. Like just to give you an idea, but they're smaller books. Like I'm not writing these big, giant, like towering monsters. No, that's not me. I want to be Roger Zelazny. I want to write these small, dense, fun adventure books is what I want to do. And so in the process of doing that, you figure out release schedules, getting things kind of going and stuff like that. I might not get to that 3rd series until the next year, but where I'm going with it is I'm always writing and producing in so many different things,
Yes.
and
Yes.
everything I'm doing, I worry if I wait too long on something that the person I was when I wrote it changes, like fully.
That definitely happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like for me, when I was writing the third book, I struggled with it at first for sure because I wasn't in love with the characters like I was when I started. And I had also really leveled up my own writing skills in that significant period of time. And I learned so much with editing and everything that looking back at my books, I was like, that's not the best I could do now, but it was the best that I could do then.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to like meet myself in the middle of like that place between skill and story, I guess, that was the third book for me. So I really feel like I took the third book to the place I need to take it to make it a satisfying resolution to this series. Even though that was hard, and even though I think I had to take that time in order to get to that place, if that makes sense.
Bit. I see. Here's the other question, because this is what happens to me, and I have to go like this. Not right now. Like right this minute, I am right now writing about Alice playing Jason of the Argonauts in a allotment in the underworld croquet.
Cool,
it's a very Wonderlandian / Greek mashup that I'm doing, right? And so Jason, I thought, is actually a really good / hero / villain. No spoilers there. You'll just have to figure that out for yourself. But while I'm doing that, I got these ideas for the third series kind of building up in my head. It's like, listen, and the third and my third character, she's kind of like a crazy, dark, nasty, like individual, and she's fun to write too for completely different reasons than Alice is.
Yes.
And right, and it's like, well, I got these stories. I'm like, shh.
Yeah, like I have priorities, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
But the story wants what the story wants.
It was story wants what the story wants. Exactly. So that's the thing, right? I think for you, like, if I were to be perfectly, this is my guess with you, is that the other part that made this so hard is because you have become, actually, we'll talk about this in a little bit, I think, in the interview, is who you are now versus who you were then. Right? Yeah. You're a different person. And because of that, like, the one thing about older you was probably a little bit more passionate about the series in total. Right?
That's a good point.
Yeah, right. And although you're technically miles better, sometimes it's not really about the technique. It's about that part of you that you can express comfortably. And sometimes and that's also why rewriting a book is a very dangerous proposition too, because you can't match that voice. You cannot match that voice with passion, and that's a very, very tricky balance. The best example I've ever seen of that is The Carpet People by Terry Pratchett. 12-year-old Terry Pratchett. Yeah, it's the intro is brilliant because he talks about this in particular, and that's the fact that 12-year-old Terry Pratchett wrote this story, and at that time, and when he did it again, I think he was in his mid-40s, he was like, I had to be very careful with this one because it's not the story I would tell today, but I had to respect 12-year-old Terry because that's his story. All I'm doing is polishing it up, and I bring all that up just basically to say, in your case, you got other stories in you now, and you're a lot more.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Like I actually last year, because I had such a concentrated period of like almost absolute solitude. I know I went like 70 days at one point without really seeing another human being other than to get groceries. And while that was a struggle in some ways, I'm also kind of made for this. Like I've been, I've been preparing for this race my whole life. I was fine.
Yes. Well, it's like I said, this is something I know about you. It's like you're just the kind of person that whatever you get this idea, you do something you want to do, you that's gonna do it, and that's and you don't give a shit. I mean, and I mean that in the best
I give a
possible way.
limited quantity of shits. Yes.
No,
I give a limited number
honestly
of
think
shits.
I think once your mind's made up, I don't think you do anymore. I think you only care and say, okay, is there a problem I must solve along the way? I'm not saying you're heartless. I'm not saying you're heartless. I just think I just think this is where I almost sense a bit of a kindred spirit here. Is the fact that I'm almost the same way.
Yeah, I feel the same thing. Like we have a kindred spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, and in the same way, and just like you're going to do what you feel you need to do, whatever that is inside you. Whether that's going to Thailand, whether that's writing a book, whether that's editing someone's book, whether that's I'm going skydiving today because fuck it. Right, and that's you. I picked this up. I picked this up when we talked at one of the regular retreats about you. This is something I just picked up really quickly. Like, she is. I realize that, and I don't want to say this in like a negative way. She really could care less who else is in the room right now. She's doing what she wants to do.
And I have stories in my head that need to be attended to.
Yeah, no, and again, I didn't take it personally. I just something I really picked up with you, which was the fact that you make a decision, and once you make it, that's it. That's all there is to it with you, and that gives you the ability, if you want, to go for extended periods of time to do whatever it is you need to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I was definitely able to do that last year.
Yeah, and you could do it again if you wanted to. Yeah.
Exactly. And last year, when I did finish the third Nyx book, Insatiable Nyx, I also started a new book. And I have been working on books off and on in the interim period. And I always seem to hit like the 30,000 word mark, and then it peters out. Then I'm like, I can't handle it. Like, where am I even taking this? I don't have a plot. But in this case, I started a second book, like totally new series. It's like a crime, thriller, psychological suspense. And I finished that. So I actually finished 2 books last year and was very proud of myself because it's been such a struggle to finish books for me. But I made a goal, right?
Double command high five.
I made a goal that I'm going to write 2 books a year. I'm just going to do it and stop getting in my own way. And also that I was going to prioritize reading more because as an editor, I eventually ended up as an editor having recreational reading. And when you get to the point in your life where you're reading a book recreationally and you call it that, then you kind of have a problem, right? So I was like, I don't have time to read other books than what I'm like, being paid to read. Like, it's just an endless list. I've got so much work to do, and it becomes work, even though it's something I love very deeply. So I prioritized my reading and got into like audiobooks and everything. So now my goal is write 2 books a year, read 200 books a year. It's a lofty goal, but it's doable. I did it last year. We'll see if it works out this year.
It can, like me, I'm down to about 40 books a year, but I also read a lot of like comic stuff. I do a lot of comic book
reading. And that's equally as important. Like immersing yourself in your genre, I think. Yeah. And also reading with depth and also reading broadly. Mm-hmm. It is so important if you're going to be a writer and you're going to write books. You need to know your genre, and you also need to have like the perspective that you gain from reading books even outside of your genre, which ends up being a lot of books.
So for me, I read a lot more in genre than I do out. But I don't. Again, for me, it's a little different. Like for me, like where I read the broadest is comics. Right, novels I tend to stay within my genre. When it's Fonda Lee, when it's like Michael Moore, like I love Fonda. Michael Moorcock is someone I've appreciated more and more as I've gotten older. I just think the fact that you just combine all these like elements together is just like magic, and I'm trying to learn. And so so there's that. And then I read new people too, like I'm reading Victoria Abiar and N.K. Jemisin. I'm reading like people like that because they're great. I discovered N.K. Jemisin actually through she was writing a Green Lantern comic, and I started reading some of her.
Oh, very cool. Okay.
Yeah, she's. It's really strange that she like I had last year. I was blessed. I had 2 awesome Green Lantern books. And the one with the established comic book team that's also like phenomenally good might actually have been the worst book, and that's a weird thing to say because that book was fantastic too. It was like I can't lose here, right? So
well, and when you're reading enough, I think you just learn so much from that experience. Like you learn new techniques, you learn what you like and what you don't like, what to do, what not to do, how to do it. Like you really get a more in-depth experience of reading as a writer. It's just so important to me.
Well, so for me, what I like reading the more visual stuff. I showed you some manga. I love Japanese light novels. I like young adult books, or like stuff like Hugo Cabaret by Michael Zelzniak. I like looking at how you can tell stories in different ways, creative ways. I am much more interested in personally in creating a very unique experience for the reader.
Yes.
I want something that if you're gonna read one of my books, it's going to feel very different than anything else you've read. That stuff like that
And
is
it should, yeah.
And for for example, so now I've had to evolve in other ways too. Like I had to figure out this emotion thing in books. I mean, god dang it.
Isn't that so hard? I completely went through that experience myself with emotion in writing. Yeah. I'm like, how do I incorporate this better? And my answer was the emotion thesaurus. It has been a game changer for me, and I've really leveled up my ability to include emotions that I feel when I'm writing it, but being able to convey those emotions to the reader to create an immersive, deep reading experience. It's so important.
Yeah, for me, I also had to be very honest about what I gave a shit about. Like I realized, so for all the fancy stuff I do, I can look at the big themes of all my books and figure out like the Cloud Diver series I did. Yes, I have the unicorn that literally talks advertisements and rainbows out of its ass. Yes, that's in there. That's just being very silly. But what that story is about a man coming out of his comfort zone and trying to figure out who he is now.
That's like your theme.
That's the theme. Yeah. Alice in Wonderland is about being brave, about actually overcoming fear, because it's something I really do care. I mean, I just mentioned this. I'm a Green Lantern fan. Overcoming fear has been something that I've grown up reading about, and also just I'm a guy that's literally chased his dreams across 2 countries. Yeah. I'm not fearless, but I've learned how to deal with my own.
You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be brave.
I know.
Be scared and do it anyway. That's brave.
That's right. But again, like if you're thinking about the story beats and the stuff I care about, that's Alice.
Yeah.
All right. The other series I talk about, the main character's name is Corey. I asked myself what actually makes a good person, right? Because that's an intellectual question. Yeah. That's an intellectual question, but it's also a personal one, right? What's your code of honor? How far are you willing to adhere to that, even in situations where there might not be no easy answers, right? I think that's a very like, to me, this is stuff I care about. Now, I haven't written like the big cheesy romance story yet. I'm sure it's in me somewhere, somehow. We all got it, whether we admit it or not. But what I've learned is this is good, but this is what people really listen to.
That's absolutely the case, Josh. I agree completely.
Yeah. So okay. Let's go a little deep here. Let's see. So what does JJ Reichenbach? When I met her, she was a little quieter than she is now. She's a little bit more confident, I think, now than she was then, for sure. And she's smiling when I say that, but I
was younger then, but also I'm a lot better at like one-on-one conversation. So talking to you, it's just like having a conversation with me, and you put me very much at ease. So I appreciate that in your interview technique.
Yeah, I'm just silly, and they gave me an award for it, so I must be doing something.
Good.
Yeah,
exactly.
Once upon a time, right? Right, I'm doing something right, but but what I'm curious is, with you, because again, that's a journey in and of itself. So was it like, where did you find it? Did you just got more comfortable in your skin as you've gotten older / wiser? Have you was there like an epiphany moment with it that just kind of went, this isn't so bad, I can handle people, at least sometimes, and then or was it just the fact that things that really bothered you when you were maybe a little younger, you've made your peace with them? Because that it could be 1, 2, or 3.
Man, it was a lot of things, Josh. to some degree, I think, getting a little bit older makes you a little bit more comfortable, caring a little bit less about things. But also, like in the last few years, for me personally, I've had some struggles with like chronic pain. I was having migraines. I had a migraine that lasted about 2 years. It was really a struggle for me personally. And let me tell you a kind of weird story, and maybe this will help you understand how I've dealt with it. So I'm sure you can find the story on YouTube, but it's a story about this Russian cosmonaut that really resonated with me. And so this Russian cosmonaut is up in space, and everything's like beautiful and calm and quiet and perfect. And then all of a sudden they hear this sound. It's like, and so they try to find, where is this sound coming from, because it keeps happening. And so they tear apart, their dashboard. They're looking everywhere, but still it's like, and it reaches a point where this cosmonaut is so out of their mind trying to find the source of this sound. It's just driving them insane. This stress and paranoia, and where is this coming from? And then they reach this point where they can't find the source of this sound. But all they can do is stop their fear and paranoia and stress and this pain, and just sit with this sound and listen to it until it turns into music in their mind. And then it's no longer this offensive banging. It is like a chorus happening around them. And it turns into this beautiful thing that they can't control, but they can sit with. And so for me, that story kind of resonates with me in terms of like dealing with chronic migraine pain. You can't control it. Maybe you can't find the source of it, but you can sit with it. You can sit with the pain until it turns into something beautiful. And then that sort of allows you to let it go. And so for me, like I've had a lot of like anxiety disorder in the past. That has been a struggle. But at the point where I stopped fighting against it and trying to find the source, trying to fix it, and was just like, okay, I understand anxiety, that you're here to protect me, to look out for me, and I'm just going to sit with you, and it's going to be okay. And we're just going to sit together in this until we don't have to anymore. And so for me, I think it was ultimately coming to a place in my life where I wasn't fighting against the problems anymore, or my own anxiety. Like I'm very much an extreme introvert, and that's just how I am, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But rather just embracing it and being okay with being who I was, no matter what. And so for me, I guess maybe that's made me a little bit calmer, maybe a little bit better to adapt to stressful crisis situations, the pandemic or whatever. I mean, realistically, when you're a shy introvert, this is your jam. This is like I have a built-in excuse not to show up for social situations. Like, oh, I can't, the pandemic. Sorry, I was gonna make an excuse anyway, but here we are. And so, yeah, exactly.
You have your built-in bullshit meter for not doing anything.
Exactly. Yeah, that's totally my thing.
No, like I just sense this with you. Like you're quietly more confident. I can actually just sense that with like you than you were when I first saw you. So I'm like,
A long time ago.
Yes.
What did she do? She spent a lot of time by herself until she dealt with her bullshit and moved on from it.
And you know what? Honestly, that's not a bad thing. Like
it's not a bad thing.
I think we all. Like, again, my first apocalypse forced me to deal with a lot of my own bullshit. I didn't finish my own bullshit until I got this taken care of. Then I had to actually look at some more of my bullshit and go, it still stinks. You got to deal with it, right? And you never stop working on yourself. I mean,
that's the thing, right?
Yeah. Oh, we're not perfect, and we're never going to be perfect. Like I know it's a shocker to admit, like just me here admitting this is like it's a big no. In all seriousness, it's just more like you have to. I'm almost 40. I turned 40 in October, and I'm at that point in my life where it's just like, okay, now I can still change and I can still grow, but the guy I see is pretty much the guy I'm going to be for the rest of my life. Minus,
yeah, and I don't think that the goal should be perfection. And maybe for both of us, the goal at one point was, be perfect, be what everybody else wants. But I really think the goal needs to be more of yourself, to really be authentically yourself.
absolutely, no, I actually agree with that. Like one of the most beautiful words I've said a lot more in the last few years is the word no. No is
very important. Boundaries, right?
Well, it's not just boundaries. It's also just that confidence to say it, right? No matter like it's when you're younger, you're like, I want to do it. Now, some of it is I want to do everything because you're trying to figure out who, like the spaghetti on the wall. Sometimes though, it's like I don't really want to do this. Like you're just being very honest with yourself. I just don't want to do this, and but you're not. But you've done everything for so long. There's almost like this expectation with yourself and everyone else. You're going to do this thing. And then you realize that that's not who you want to be, and you're like, okay, so what do I gotta do? You gotta say no, and it's and you're afraid of losing, but the fact is, you're losing no matter what. Like you come to this realization that what is more valuable to you, your time, your energy, your peace of mind, or because you gotta live with yourself. When it's over, whatever you're doing with anybody else,
exactly,
right? It's not gonna change. It's not gonna change what you have to look in the mirror and do. So I will say no, or I'm just enough of a whore to charge extra. Right?
But I mean, you say that, but it's really important that you're charging what you're worth, right? And that you're valuing your own creative contributions. I have so many authors who they hesitate to charge people for their books, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You put so much time, so much effort, so much of your soul and money, let's be realistic, into this book. You need to be paid the value of what your time is worth. And so often in the creative industry, we're reluctant to do that because we also, I think, get a lot of joy out of what we're doing. Like it's our true purpose and passion. But we have to be resolute in that. We have to say, I have value.
Well, actually, I'm gonna emphasize that point a little bit more. The last thing you want in the world to do is resent what you do, ever. So now like I said, I've been freelancing for the last year, and for the first 6 months, I tried everything because you have to try everything, right? And I learned kind of like so. This is going to sound like really blatantly obvious, right? I recognize that like ultimately like I was looking for a niche because when you're freelancing, you know this as well, and you built your business, you got to figure out what your niche is. And it occurred to me, it's like this is my niche. This is what I've been doing for years and years. And years. It took about 6 months for that to sink in, though, right? Because it's I think one of the big challenges too is sometimes we take for granted what we do ourselves just as a regular thing. And it's like, for me, that was the thing. Now, figuring out how to turn it into money, that took a little while to really fully figure that out. I'm still figuring out a little bit, but I mean, it's just like, well, what do I do well? I do interviews fantastically well. So what should I be doing? I should be interviewing people and using the information I accrue from these interviews and then write stuff about it and publish it.
Yes, absolutely. And Josh, I so appreciate you as an interviewer and also interviewing me right now. I really appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you too because you rock and secretly I've always like the woman behind the enigma has always been something that's always fun there. But going into this like where like this is where I'm saying to all writers out there, you and I've said this a lot of the same things you have. You bust your ass to put together a product. Now, again,
it's so much work.
Yeah, it is. No, it really is. Like you bust your ass.
So much work.
And finding good people's hard. Finding a good editor is hard. By the way, guys, like and her other identity, she's pretty good at that, from what I've heard.
My alter ego is an editor.
That's right, and she's good at it, from what people have told me. I have another editor. It's really good too. So it's like, but you know, it's like but I'm not. No,
you gotta find the right fit for you.
What?
You gotta find the right fit for you when it comes to it.
Again, not every editor is for every person either.
Exactly.
That's something that's got to be there. But what I am going to say is same thing. You're putting your time, your effort, your energy into putting your book together, right? Finding the right people, the right that in itself is work. Being fortunate enough to find that. Now, creatively speaking, your backlist is your money in writing. That's for if you're a creative, you want to build a big backlog of books so that when people find you, you have a ton of things that people can choose from to read of yours. They'll like some, they'll hate others. That doesn't matter. The fact is, like, I know when I release my next Alice book, my sales are going to continuously go up. Why?
Yes.
Because I already have a backlog of about 5 books into my name.
As you built the reader base.
You build a reader base a little bit, but also I have a podcast, right? So I've built myself up, so people know who I am just based on that alone. But you build that's the business you build. So if anyone's going to come and say, is that valuable? Yeah, it takes a while to get to where it's a living, but it's valuable. IP sells. It's one of the biggest money makers left in the world, honestly, is IP, because you got, like, selling a book. You can sell your next series as a video game, as a movie, as a television show.
That'd be awesome.
but again, you're a businesswoman, right? And that's, one of the other things, like, this is what publishers do. Publishers take your property and they sell it over and over and over again. They don't just say, keep making more books like a machine. No, I'm going to take my work and I'm going to resell it in different ways all the time. So then this is the author said there. It's like, yeah, all of this to say, like, this is valuable stuff you're doing. There is a lot of money in this. There really is, but you have to protect yourself, to protect the joy in the creation of it. You have to set yourself at a certain level of work. I think one of the earliest lessons I learned as a freelancer is, if you charge too cheaply, no one respects you. It's a very
yes, you set your own value. You tell people what your value is, and if that value is too low, then they will have less expectation of your value. If you set it for what you're actually worth, they will rise to that expectation of your value.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like I learned that very much in the first year. It's part of the whole process of being a creative. Is you have to recognize, like, if you're doing this as a business, if you're doing this as a side venture, it's not your big priority. You don't have to worry about this quite so much. But even then, I still would encourage this. You put the work in, you put the time in. You must enjoy it. I mean, there is a certain degree of torture we all put ourselves to actually get it out there, right? Yeah. I mean, look at all the writers you've had to beat into shape sometimes. It's like, nope, not good enough. Get back to work.
Right? Well, and the thing is, Josh, like with these writers and with me personally, God, I quit writing every week. I quit it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get a real job. But the reality is, if you're a writer in your soul, you're going to write no matter what. Even if you go and get that real job, you're still going to be writing afterwards. You can't quit something that is your passion, that really is who you are in your soul.
So the last thing you want to do is resent it. And that's
absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that's basically what I'm saying here. So when you look at charging your worth, yeah, you should, because if you
have to,
right, you're setting yourself up. Not necessarily. Have I given books away before? Yeah, sure, I've done it. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, let's talk about one of my favorite examples of this. I was doing a Phoenix Comic Con in Phoenix, Arizona. So this little girl came up to me with her guardian, and she couldn't afford. I had like one comic left of this one little series I had there, and she was like, she wanted it, but she just couldn't afford it. I decided to give it to her anyways. $3.
Well, I mean, yeah, right. Like, come on.
No, but I mean, but this is I want to differentiate this because this is important. You guys, I mean, it was definitely a case by case scenario. But when you're out there, and you recognize the fact that there are people that don't necessarily, people will not respect you unless there is actually a dollar sign attached to the word.
Well, yeah, and like unless you respect yourself.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. And you got to decide what that looks like. But I guess since we dwelled into like intellectual property stuff, so okay, you definitely you want to do more book related like IP stuff, but like what? So you mentioned like what are you a television girl? Are you a video gamer? Are you any of those things? Or are you?
Oh, like me personally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do love my Netflix and my video games.
What do you play?
I'm kind of addicted to Skyrim. I know it's like super old now, but nothing compares to Skyrim.
I will challenge you on that one actually. So I play super old video games too. Like we're now super old. So me, my RPG series, I have 3 RPG series that I think. Now again, let's be honest here. I somehow feel you take yourself a little more seriously than I do. I mean, I read stuff like this.
What does it say? I can't quite
Grand
see
Blue Fantasy.
Oh, you think I take myself more seriously than manga? Come on, John.
No. I think you take yourself more seriously than me. That's what I do somehow feel that you do, right? A little bit, right? Right. So, but what all which to say is, so I love the Tales games. Like I don't know if you played the Tales games.
Like Tales from the Borderlands or Game of Thrones, Telltale games?
No. So okay, so since you are an RPGer and you will time sync because that Skyrim is a huge time sync, right? Wow. It's like,
huge.
No, it is. It is. So Skyrim. I respect Skyrim, but if I were to really pick. If I were to really pick, my video game series of choice are the Tales games or the Persona games.
Interesting.
Yeah, so the Tales games are once upon a time when I was like a young guy, a really really young kid, I was incredibly good at fighting games. Like I was actually championship level good.
Nice.
Good at fighting games, but I love RPGs. So I was like fighter and RPGs, and the Tales games are that happy place between. Your character combat system is very much like a fighting game, very much like a fighting game. You're doing buttoned combinations, mashes, like moves, a lot like fighting games, right? And so it's like, okay, so I can do this, right? And then on the flip side, it's an RPG. You're leveling up, you're on quests. But my favorite part about the Tales games is the skits. When your party gets together after battles, they actually do like these little skits, and they're cool. Sometimes they advance the story. Sometimes they're just like these comedic moments between characters, and you're like, okay. And some of them are just hilarious. Some of them are, and the cool thing about the Tales games is they will, they're in on the joke sometimes. Sometimes they're really in the joke. There's this one game. Well, the first one I played, Tales of Graces. I ended up going so far off the beaten path. I was going toward this dungeon, and I go off into the other direction. So the game actually had a built-in event when you went the wrong way that I just discovered by accident, and it's hilarious. Right? It's hilarious, but it's an RPG. It's a more like again that kind of like animation style, Japanese animation,
right?
Yeah, Japan RPG, and then Persona is as immersive as Skyrim. Right, it's a little bit like somewhere. The basic game concept, whether you play 3, 4, or 5, are the same. You're a transfer student that is going to this school, and you discover that you kind of have powers, and you're trying to do various different things, and you're fighting young shadows. Legitimately, are the villains in the story. You're fighting different, which I think you get a kick out of. But the games are immersive. The story and the characterization is far away some of my favorite stuff in terms of video games I've ever seen. And great combat, like turn-based RPG. It's not quite like Skyrim where you're going in the combat and you just
open world, yeah.
Yeah. It's not. It's still very open. There's lots of things to explore and do. Persona is a combination of a classic dungeon RPG and The Sims, and it works in.
I do love Sims.
You'll love it. Persona. So Persona 5 Royal. You'll love it. It'll be
I'll have
cracked.
to look into that.
Yeah, no, you'll love that. That one you will love. Tales might not be your cup of tea. I don't know for sure, but Persona, you'll be like, Josh, it's your fault. I'm addicted to this.
Oh no, is it going to be a huge time dump?
Listen, you're playing Skyrim. If you really were worried about time dump, you wouldn't be playing Skyrim.
And I've played Skyrim so many times that it's ridiculous. And it's the same thing every time, but I'm like, I love it.
Well, no, it is, but it isn't. See, I think here's the cool thing about video games.
You can play it differently, right?
Yeah, you can play it differently. Number one.
Yes.
Number two, it's an open world. There are parts of every game. Like, okay, so my bad game of choice. This is my quote unquote bad game of choice. Is Final Fantasy 13.
Oh, okay. I haven't played that one.
So, if you play the other Final Fantasy games,
yeah,
you will find you probably will feel the story structure is a very linear game, and that's the downfall of Final Fantasy 13. The thing is, from a story perspective, purely a story, like top-down design of the world, it makes sense. It's a linear game. It really, really does. It fits. But it doesn't have the emotional impact Skyrim does or Persona does. But even in spite of all that, it actually, when you finally do get to the part of the game where you can go anywhere and do anything, it's an incredibly open, deep game in that space. It is incredibly deep. It's one spot, but that spot is so deep and filled with things to do. That will sink so much time. I'm a sucker for I do enjoy that first game a lot, just because I love how I love the system of how that game works. Is it the best game? No, it definitely has its flaws.
But it's a game you love. That's what matters.
Yeah. So, and as for Netflix, I'm not cool enough for Netflix. I'm not mature enough for Netflix. I'm just not. And so. The first time I tried Netflix out was when the first Daredevil season came out.
That's a long time ago, Josh.
That is a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
That is a long time ago. I watched the whole series in one night with my friends because it just was so, like, Daredevil season 1 is ridiculously good. Like that.
Okay, but have you watched Jessica Jones?
Let me finish. Let me finish my story. So. Okay, I promised myself I would never do that again because that was a day in my life I did not plan to lose. Okay, and yes, I have no regrets. Daredevil was great.
No regrets.
Yeah, no regrets there. I do regret the second series I binge watched on the one playthrough, which was Kill la Kill. Kill la Kill is not that good. Not
no, I've never heard of it.
It was something about, again, if you haven't figured this out, I'm a manga Japanese anime fan. So it was a Japanese anime show. It's okay.
You spent like 100 hours on it.
No, not 100. Even I got my limit. I watched the whole series in one night, and I just decided that 26 episodes in one night. Which is just like
so bad. 26. They're like 30 minutes long.
Yeah, but
you could have been doing actual adult things.
No. It just occurred to me that I cannot handle the power that is Netflix, because if I do, because again, I admit this openly, Kill la Kill is an okay show. For what it is, it's okay. It is not binge worthy like that. And again, this is just me going.
But you binged it.
I have a problem. I can't do it. Right? And that's just me. I cannot do it because if I start, I'm one of those people that will go all the way in. I'm just so glad it wasn't something like Fairy Tale or Dragon Ball Z or something with hundreds.
Oh, like a million episodes.
Yeah, I'd still be there, and that's not a good place. It's not a good place, right? So I literally consider, like, I am not mature enough for Netflix. I just am not. I can't do it, and that means I've missed out on so many cool shows. But on the flip side, here's the flip side to it, though, right? In some ways, I'm a little bit. I'm somewhat half proud of myself because, listen, I still play Devil May Cry. I still play lots of video game stuff. So I still give myself my injustice that way. But as far as television goes, I am just not cool. The only thing, the only series I legitimately regret that I'm not watching right now is Cobra Kai.
Oh yeah, I've heard about this Cobra Kai, but I haven't watched it myself. Seems like a dark hole to fall into.
A fun dark hole. See, it's. I'm a big fan of the first Karate Kid movie. I think most of us that watched the first Karate Kid movie are a big fan of that movie.
Yeah.
It's incredibly well done, and this series is it honors that saga in a very, very fun way. In a perfect world, we could have. I would love a Mr. Miyagi appearance somewhere, but I know that can never happen, which is sad on one hand. But on the other hand, like, for everything I've heard and seen from that show it's really fun. It's about, again, people coming to terms with their past and kind of moving forward with some things and getting some closure and dealing with their own issues and.
I mean, isn't that every story ever at some point, right?
Yeah, but what makes every story different is, see, for example, there's only one of you. How you handle things is going to be different from me. Now, we're alike in some ways, but we're very different in others. In some ways, you're much braver and stronger and tougher than I'll ever be, and vice versa. It's true, like and vice versa. And the thing about that is, right, is there's no new stories that are told.
Exactly.
But it's how we deal with it, and we all travel this ocean of life that, like, if we're all salt, we go into the water and we come out we take the salt out of the water. It's a very different thing than when it comes in, and for all of us, it's different. Each and every one of us, and that's the fascinating thing.
That's a really good point, and like, I feel like with Nyx, the main character of my series, by the time she reaches book 3, she's in that place too, where she's grown a lot between book 1, where she was just herself, and then book 2, where she was like having a transition, and then book 3, where she really has to face the shit that she didn't want to face before, and a lot of that for her was like an inability to face the fact that she was responsible for a lot of her own problems.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't want to look at that, and she wanted to blame everybody else around her, like she was a victim of circumstance or whatever. But in that book, I feel like she took off her mask by the end and found who she really was and what she was responsible for, and kind of came into her own for that.
So I'm gonna ask another personal question as I feel we're almost at the end, but I feel like is that very different than the person that wrote it?
I mean, pretty different.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a demon, and I'm just me, and I'm a pretty chill person. It was actually it's been a struggle for me over all these years. Like, I started out and I'm like, oh, I want to write this terrible, evil character who's a demon, who's like really cruel and malicious and like takes such pleasure from manipulating people and destroying their lives. And that's obviously not me at all. Like, I'm a pretty nice person when you get to know me. So it's been a struggle to write her, but like we talked about before, Josh, like, you have to write the book the way the book wants to be written, and you have to be treated the characters the way they want to be written. And sometimes that has nothing to do with us as writers or authors, right?
So I'm going to ask. I'm just going to slightly seem off topic, but I'm just fascinated by this question and just perspective. Did you ever read the Screw Tape Letters by C.S. Lewis?
You know what? I have it in my library to read, and I haven't yet.
I think you'd understand, like your pain was his pain. Here's the because
Really?
here's the thing, right? Bad guys are fun. Like they're super
They're
fun.
so much fun.
Yeah,
They're
I
so
know
entertaining.
because you can say and like the cool thing about a bad. So here's the thing about bad guys, in my opinion. This is my golden rule with bad guys. Okay, they must have credibility.
Mhm.
That's the only thing they really need. Anything else is kind of up in the air.
Mhm.
They can say what they want. They can do what they want, right? And but there has to be a gravity to what they're saying or doing. Because if they can't do it, you take them less seriously, right?
Yes, and they have to be like consistent within themselves and their goals.
Absolutely. But when you're writing a book where the main character is a bad person, I had this trope. I actually tried myself. I did a noir story. It
It's
started.
hard.
Oh, it's super hard. But
Yeah.
I figured out why. Do you want to know why I figured this out?
Why? Why?
I don't need to like a character to
Yeah.
write them, but I need to respect them. I
Mm,
actually stopped
yeah.
writing this book because my main character was he has this power to be like this incredible bad guy or good guy. Either way, I gave him like Nightcrawler's ability to teleport anywhere, right? And he was in the first scene of the story. He's getting raped and in a prison by another superpower thing. And he has to
Wow.
steal like this evil like spell book from this evil organization. And it's a dark book. Like it's just the one ray of sunshine is there. By the time I get to like the end of Act Two, it's gone. I completely obliterate the sunshine in the story by that. And because it was a noir, it was like me trying a noir story, something that just doesn't end in a happy place. And it occurred to me about when I got to that point in the story that I was like, it's not that I don't like the character that bothers me. It's the fact that I don't respect him. And it's also it's very hard to stay in that headspace for an extended period of time because it's not who you are. And
Yes. Yes.
and you again, I've done other bad guys that I've really enjoyed them being bad guys. Like in the Cloud Diver, he's essentially he loves his daughter. I did his introduction is he's in my good guy's house talking to his daughter about and now trying to figure out how to buy a pony because that's what she wants for being a good little girl. And that's the
Right.
first impression you have of him. Then when he tries to kill how he becomes this monster, like this sociopathic monster, he was a lot of fun. But again, there were things about him I could respect. For all the bluster, just like his motivation is incredibly simple. He just wants the best world he can for his daughter. He just decided to be a criminal to do it because it was easier than a real job. And that sounds very like some people will be like, man, it's like no, it's the truth. Like there are a lot of people that do things under the table for that reason.
Yeah.
Honest work is a much harder than is one of the hardest ways to live in this world. Most people cheat, just the way it is. Um, but I could respect that bad guy and again, he wasn't all bad. I made a corrupt version of the Knights of the Round in my Corey series. Like this Corey series, they're all monsters. They're all just these like what I did to the Knights of the Round is just horrifying. Percival in particular, I'm proud of. I turned him into a vampire, and it was
Nice.
just kind of fun. It was so fun to do. But again, even with them, as monstrous as they were, right? There were qualities about them that I could at least admire a little bit.
Yeah, there has to be, right? Like
Yeah.
even when you're writing a really fundamentally evil character, like Nyx is a demon. She doesn't care a lot about people's feelings. She will kill you if she feels like it'll be entertaining for her. So she's like a fundamentally bad character. But you still have to kind of ride that very fine line of character sympathy so that the reader is still rooting for them, even though they're doing terrible, terrible things. And at some points, I feel like I'm over the line. Some points, I'm like behind the line with Nyx. But I think in the third book, I think she rides that line fairly well. So she's gone through the first book, which was, meeting these hunters who she wanted to make sure they weren't hunting her because she didn't want any problems. She was just living her, demon life or whatever. And then she kind of gets hooked up with them and starts to be like, oh, I can really make your life a living hell. So she does. She kills a bunch of their friends. And then in book 2, suddenly she's summoned by them to help with the serious problem. And she's like, why would you summon me of all people? Like, I've just killed a bunch of your family, basically. You have problems if you're summoning me. But they end up having a common enemy, which is what binds them together. And for Nyx, this common enemy is the Order of the Ram, who made her the demon that she is, who tricked her into becoming a demon and into sacrificing the thing that she loved most, which was her sister. And so it created like this deep fundamental wound in the character that by book 3, she still has, but she's dealing with in a different way. So in book 3, she's with the hunters. They're fighting against a common enemy. So you can kind of have some sympathy there, even though she's still a bad person, like she is. She does bad things. She's not really a person, a bad demon. And she's in the body of one of the hunters who has started to become corrupted a little bit. In book 2, he's lost his eyes, had his eyes replaced by ghoul eyes, which has corrupted his body and soul in a way that makes him like crave human flesh. So by book 3, now she's craving human flesh, and she's like, "Whoa, buddy, I'm not into this. Like, I'm not into cannibalism. It's not my thing." But she has no other option but to be in this body to control it, and she's trying to manage this problem with her hunter friends while also combating these archdemons over here, the ones who made her into what she is today. And so that's a lot of struggle for her, even though she's still a demon at the end of the day and is still over herself and is still fundamentally evil. But she'll take a break from that evil when she needs to protect herself, if it serves her purposes, if that makes sense.
You humanized her. You found
exactly.
You humanized her a little bit because you found your piece of. See, I was saying, in my character's case, I couldn't do it. I couldn't find that quality that I could connect with in a way that would actually make it easier to do it. So I basically had to walk away. And it sounds like for you, the first book in particular probably was the hardest one.
It was hard. It was hard. Yeah.
Yeah, for that
she was
reason.
Just evil.
Yeah, I'm just a bitch. I'm just gonna fuck you up.
Yeah, and she'll do what she wants to do.
Right. And that's but again, that's not like no one's entirely a good or a bad guy, right?
Yes. Even the worst of the bad guys, there's some sort of human element to them.
Yeah. And even in real life, I mean, I can be an asshole.
Yeah.
Who knew, right? I mean, I have that in me somewhere, somehow, some way, and I wouldn't be who I am without that, and that's what makes us who we are. So, is the book out? Is the book done and ready to release?
The book is being released officially on June 29th. It's a Tuesday. I'm doing like a launch at 7 p.m. June 29th. It's going to be through Owl's Nest. You can register. There's like a link on my Facebook page where you can register to attend this launch. And then it's officially available to the public.
So how's the book events like over there now? Like I'm just very curious.
They're still virtual. Yeah, they're still virtual.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe if I waited a while, it could be in person, but I'm okay with it being virtual. It'll be fine.
I think deep down you want to get into your crime thriller stuff because that.
Well, yeah, like I finished my crime thriller that I wrote. It's called Alibi, and right now I'm at the query stage where I'm reaching out and looking for representation and an agent. And we'll see how it goes. Like it's always a process.
So I'm going to ask this. So what's your goal as a writer? Like, is it to be like that hybrid woman of awesome, doing some indie stuff here and there, and doing like when you do the crime thriller stuff, maybe that's what you want to do for traditional. You do the traditional crime thriller stuff, become like a towering bestseller, and when you want to explore the dark side, you just do more Nyx stuff and other things. And
I might do. Like I don't think that I'll continue the Nyx series. Like it's done. Once you get to the end of the book, it's pretty wrapped up. and your stories played through, and that's great. But I might write some more horror, which I would put out under JJ Reichenbach. It's hard to say. We'll see what happens. Yeah, and at this point, I'm looking at traditional publishing tentatively for the thriller suspense, and we'll see what happens there too.
Okay, no, there's nothing wrong with that. I just curious. I'm just curious. Oh, by the way, just so is the thriller crime stuff going to be under JJ Reichenbach, or is that going to be a different?
No, I'm going to publish it under my actual name. Yeah.
I see. So I'm going to ask another quote unquote random question, but I almost feel like you might have this in you. Are you like because you again exploring the dark side on your spare time here seems to be something you do.
Yeah.
Music, metal, yay, nay?
Not really. Not really for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I just figured I'd ask that question. It was just like one of those.
That's fair.
Yeah, I just asked that once because like I think the last thing we'll talk about before we wrap it fully into.
Yeah, I think we're after 6 o'clock already.
I know. I have a big mouth. I can go forever, but I get the feeling you got other things you want to do, so I won't keep you for too much longer. But I just want to say that's like the nicest people usually find constructive uses of some of their wonderful and like darker impulses, whatever they do.
Yeah, I think that's true. Josh.
Yeah. So, like for you, that's horror. Like, this is where you're gonna go?
I love horror. Horror is my jam. It's my favorite thing. My favorite genre. I could write horror all day. So that's definitely a way to work out. I guess the darker sides of ourselves. I don't know. Just to really examine the darker impulses of human nature is what interests me.
Interesting.
Sometimes demon nature.
Sometimes demonic. Okay. I have one final big major question.
Sure.
Question for hey, I guess confirmed another interview right there. Nice. So, what's your favorite horror? Like, what's your favorite horror story?
Oh. You had asked the biggest question. Okay. My favorite horror movie is called A Tale of Two Sisters. It's Korean. Whoever's watching this, you need to find it. You need to watch it. It is sublime. It's amazing. My favorite horror TV show is right now The Haunting of Hill House. That is one of the most masterful pieces of work I've ever seen. It is on Netflix, Josh. You need to find it. You need to watch it.
I have a problem, Tasia.
I know you have a problem. And in terms of like books, right now, I am so deeply, passionately in love with Bird Box by Josh Malerman. It's amazing, and you should all go and buy this book and read it. And there's a sequel right now, Mallory, that is a follow-up.
Yeah, I was just talking about this with another horror author. It's hard to find a horror section anymore, but there's actually horror is one of the fundamental, like.
It's fundamental.
Yeah, great fiction things. So.
Yeah.
So next time you come on the show, we'll wax philosophy about all the great horror books.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yeah. But I will tell you, the book that scared me the most is not technically horror, but it's the one that scared me the most. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury.
Oh, so freaking good, that book. Yes. A little dystopian. It was so disturbingly realistic, like you could see it happening in the future.
So I'm working on, so I'll tell you the other book I'm working on this year. I'm actually, so I don't know if you've noticed. If you haven't, that's cool. I've actually started drawing.
Oh, have you? No, I'm not really on social media that often.
That's okay. No, I get it. Like you said, you're off just doing your thing, and I totally get it.
Doing my thing, yeah.
Doing your thing, or getting addicted to Skyrim. Damn it! I'll do it again. I'll do it right this time.
Yeah, right? Play slightly differently.
Yes. Yeah, but no, it's a testament to Skyrim, honestly, that it is legitimately a cool game. But no, I'm actually my last book is called Lights Out. It's about 30 days being disconnected from the power grid and Wi-Fi internet for 30 days. Instead of going to prison, they actually just cut you off from the grid for 30 days.
Yikes, that seems cruel.
So it's called Lights Out. And it's I'm hoping to have that out by Christmas. It's my little homage And
nice.
The crime that he commits, I'll actually give this away right now. He steals a museum copy of the Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury because that was the first book I ever actually read in science fiction. So it's just like it's a little
It's got a place in your heart.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna do a homage to one of your favorite authors, you got to do it right. You got to actually make sure it's all there.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'm drawing stuff in it too, which I never thought I'd do in a million years. So that was scary. But next time you come on the show, whenever that is, we can wax all the wonderful, like, great things.
That sounds awesome, Josh. Yeah, let's do that.
All right, we'll do that. But before we do that, we're gonna have to do the proper wrap up. So you got your book. So for everybody that is going to be watching and listening, here's JJ giving her book event where people can find her. She's not on social media very much, but she is here.
I exist, but yeah, June 29th, Tuesday, June 29th, you can attend the book launch. It's through Owl's Nest Books. There's a registration link. If you go to my Facebook page, just look up JJ Reichenbach Nix, Nix for Nix, and you can find me.
That's right. Do you have a webpage? Do you have a webpage?
Yes, it's JJ Reichenbach. That's JJReichenbach.weebly.com.
Weebly?
Weebly, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
Oh,
perfect.
Geez.
Yes, that's exactly.
Not quite like that.
Almost with an H at the end. Yeah.
Yeah. I hit the wrong one.
Yeah, and you can see links to buy the upcoming book, which is released on the 29th. And the book's already available, Nix 1 and Nix 2. And this is the wrap up to this series. I'm really excited about it.
Thank you very, very much, JJ. This is JJ Reichenbach, a.k.a. Taser Morg, a.k.a. Skyrim Addict, a.k.a.
Yes, exactly.
Really, really cool individual. And that's going to do it this week for just joshing. Next week, I got some amazing guests coming up as well. If you want to support me, you can go to my twitch.tv/justjoshing podcast. Hit the like and subscribe button. If you want to go on my YouTube channel is Joshua Cantoresco. Like and subscribe there. Alice Zero was my last release, June 15th. I'm going to talk about some news about Alice Zero. Some really cool things are coming. So I'm going to let people know about that then and there. But until then, guys, stay inspired, keep making beautiful things, and keep shining in the dark. And I'll see you guys next week.